Do-do-do-do, it's Chemdork.
Hello everyone, this is Chemdork, and welcome to episode 34 of season number 2 of my Buildcraft, where we are playing Minecraft with the mods, thermal expansion, forestry, and Buildcraft installed. Welcome back, and here we are in front of the pyramid once again, or at least by the pyramid once again. Pretty much right where we left off from last episode 33, where we started digging a hole. Well, the hole's become bigger. For sure. So let's go ahead and down and see what's up. So our quarry is still running just fine. Nice good speed, and we've finished hollowing out that little middle part, so now we're just continuing all the way down. Not to bedrock, I'm not going to go that far, but a considerable amount farther than this, I think. Not too much, but a reasonable amount farther, I think, because again, we're going to have it like an upside-down pyramid that'll probably go down maybe to about like that level where we currently are. So I want to go down maybe till like, I don't know, 10, 15 more blocks or so. Something around there. I don't want to go all the way down, just a reasonable amount down. It's going to be a pretty large hole. Maybe I'll go much farther. I don't know. But I'll have to decide that, and this hole will be kind of as I was describing before. It's going to be about the same in this dimension, but I think I'm going to extend it in this type of dimension. Probably equally on both sides, so I think after this quarry I'm probably going to set up either a filler or a quarry on that side and this side. I think that's what I'm going to do. But we'll sort of see. But for now, we are powering our quarry with a tesseract. Great. And I think this apparently you can name, this is what this is for, you can actually name your different settings, I guess. I think that's it. Frequency. Yeah, you can name your frequency. I think that's what someone was saying in the comments. Thanks for some information. I'll probably play around with this a little more, but tesseracts work just fine. Okay, and a hardened energy cell. I actually set it so that the output doesn't match the input. I wanted to see whether this was actually losing power, because I heard that there was power loss when you went through a tesseract. So if that was the case, then the output is 400, but the input is actually something less than 400. But I'm not positive. Actually, yeah, because this is a hardened energy conduit. So I'm not positive about that. We'll actually see. There's if I get one of those multimeter, yeah, tools that you can get in thermal expansion, I can actually see that. But for now, like, I can just look at this. But anyway, so let's continue. That's not what we're doing today. We're not just going to stare at this hole being dug all day. We're actually going to be considering something, and that is, right now we're powering that using a tesseract, and this is going to be a full-functioned base, you know, with all sorts of facilities and things that require power. So how are we going to get power to this base? It's not going to be with a tesseract. I need a fuel source of some sort. So I could use oil, but that's just a little bit of pool of oil. It's not really anything. So how am I going to power this base? And I'm thinking, well, a really good way of doing it might be using biofuel. And basically having a fully renewable resource of biofuel, which got me thinking into what I can do to maximize the biofuel production. And, well, we're going to do just that. And in order to describe a little bit more of this in detail, let's actually head on to a creative mode world. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about biofuel and what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to give you the plan, and then we're going to start to put it into action today. Okay, see you in 1 second. Okay, everybody. So in order to maximize our production of biofuel, or ethanol as it's called now, which is that orange stuff you see in the back, that we need to know how to make it first, right? So the key to making ethanol is that it's a two-step process. You have to take a source liquid of some sort, convert it into biomass. You take a source liquid and a source item, such as a sapling, mix it together in a fermenter with some sort of fuel source to get biomass, and then you convert biomass into biofuel, or ethanol, using one of two different items. So first, let's concentrate on that second step, which is biomass into biofuel, or ethanol. So if we just actually open up NEI, can tell us the different ways of making it, in which case you can make biofuel or ethanol in a refinery, which is a Buildcraft refinery, or in a still, which is from forestry. A still and a refinery differ based on the amount of ethanol you get per biomass. per amount of biomass, and they also might differ in terms of the energy consumption, but as I don't have the information on energy consumption of the still compared to the refinery, I don't know which one is absolutely more efficient. So going based on just the amount conversion, a refinery can convert 4 millibuckets of biomass into 1 millibucket of ethanol, and a still can convert 1 bucket of biomass into 0.3 buckets of ethanol. So if we convert this ratio to 1 bucket of biomass is 0.25 ethanol buckets, versus in a still 1 bucket of biomass is converted to 0.3 buckets of ethanol, then it looks like a still is actually more efficient. But again, I don't know if that's actually the case because I don't know if the amount of energy you use makes it more efficient this way or not. But we're probably going to use a still anyways until I know otherwise. So okay, but that's not where we can get the most efficiency. Where we can get the most efficiency in this process is to maximize our biomass production. So we do this in a fermenter. Like I said, we need some sort of source liquid, we need some sort of fuel source, and some sort of source item. So a source item can be a sapling. Particular oak saplings make sense. The fuel source, oak saplings make sense for now, but I'll get into that in a little bit. The fuel source can either be fertilizer or mulch, or compost, which you can make with wheat. We're actually going to use not fertilizer, because a fertilizer is made only by mining apatite, and this means we're going to have to mine every once in a while to make sure our stores of apatite are high, and I just don't want to do that. I want something automatic, so I'm going to try to do it with mulch, using a wheat farm maybe, to get us some mulch with a moistener. So we'll start that today. And then we'll also start the things necessary for maximizing the biomass production based on specializing, using a specialized sapling and a specialized fuel source liquid, I should say. So let's start with the source liquid first. Actually, let's start with the sapling. So oak saplings seem reasonable to use, right? Well, maybe not. So let's look at the treealizer. Let's look at these oak saplings. We can actually tell a bit about how much biomass we're going to get by two different traits. The saplings trait is one of them, and the sappiness trait is another. So saplings indicate how often a sapling is dropped, or indicate the probability of dropping a sapling from breaking a leaf. So in this case, it's an average probability. So okay, you get an average amount of saplings, and then the sappiness is a trait that indicates how much biomass per sapling. That's actually what it means. It's not how sad things are and how much it likes, how much your trees like the sappy shows on TV or something. No, it's actually dealing with how much biomass per sapling you get. So you actually get a low amount, the lowest amount of biomass per sapling of apple oak, which means the apple oak is actually not really a good one to use. Let's look at two of these things. Let's look at blue maho. Blue maho is pretty cool. This is much better. So the saplings you drop are lower, so there's actually less of a probability you're going to drop a sapling from an apple oak. But the sappiness quality is high, which means that per sapling you get a lot more, you get a high amount of biomass per sapling, which is great. So blue maho looks great, but it would be better if this saplings trait was high instead of lower. What do you know, balsa actually has a high sapling rate. It has nothing in terms of leaves, but it has a very high saplings rate, so a high probability to drop a sapling and a lower sappiness trait. So we could cross a balsa with a blue maho and try to get a balsa with a high sappiness and high saplings trait, or the other way around. We could do a blue maho with high saplings and a high sappiness. The reason why we would want to do blue maho versus balsa is because, well, it'll become obvious in a second. So here's a blue maho, here's an apple oak for comparison. Here's a balsa tree. Come on. I think maybe it makes sense pretty obviously. And in fact, this is not always what you get for balsa. The number of leaves you have for balsa are very, very few compared to the blue maho. So we're going to get a lot of leaves, high probability of dropping a sapling with a sapling when it drops, these guys. Oh, I'm not, sorry. These guys, which gives you a lot of biomass per sapling. So that's cool. That's the saplings aspect. We're going to have to cross a blue maho with a balsa wood. Cool. What about the source liquid? Now, I have 3 liquids I can show you here. We can use water. For certain, this is fine, and it's free, and it's easy. We can use honey. Honey is much better, and juice is equally as good as honey. Honey we can get from the bee farm, and I think we'll be able to satisfy the amount of fluid with honey, but maybe not everywhere. I think I might use this in my main base, but maybe not in the pyramid. I actually want to see if we can get fruit juice instead. Fruit juice is very similar to... creating fruit juice is very similar to the case where you're creating biomass with saplings. Let's actually look at what we can do. So let's, for example, you create fruit juice by squeezing lemons, plums, or other fruits. So let's look at, actually let's open up. If I push L, I can get this NEI plugins giving me the recipe list. Let's look at forestry and the squeezer. Okay, so, oh boy. Actually what I want to see is, let's see, fruit juice, fruit juice, fruit juice. Where are we at? Come on, actually, you know what, this isn't the way to do it. I'm going to go fruit juice, and how do we make it? Okay, in the squeezer using many different methods. There we go. Okay, so we can squeeze lemons. Each lemon gives us 0.4 buckets of fruit juice. Each plum gives us 0.1, so that's much less per fruit. Papayas give you 0.6, which is the most. I actually don't know where papayas come from. I don't know what tree produces them yet. Dates give you almost nothing, and apples give you kind of a little more than plums, but not much more than anything else. Let me just clear the weather. So it makes sense that we actually want lemons to act as our... we want an orchard creating lemons that can be squeezed into fruit juice. Makes sense, but even this we can maximize in a very similar way. Let's look at a lemon sapling and compare to a plum sapling. And here, the key trait is yield. Yield governs the amount of this item that is dropped. In which case, the yield is lower for lemons, and actually for plums, it's high. So this one is, what we want is a lemon sapling, because we want to use lemons. And we want the lemon sapling with a high yield trait. So that's why we want to cross these two and these two with arboriculture. And then we want to use probably stills for converting it. Okay, seems reasonable. So step 1 is doing the cross to get us fruit juice. Step 2 is doing the cross to get us the best sapling. And step 3 is going to be the producing mulch using some farms. So we're going to create some farms, we're going to do some crossing of trees, and yeah, it's going to be all sorts of fun. All right, let's get to it. Onward. Wait, there's more. Looked into this, and actually we should be using papaya saplings since papayas will give us the most amount of fruit juice. So in order to get papayas, I'll have to actually make them first, and then I'll be crossing them in order to get their yield to be the highest. I will cross those papayas, not the lemon saplings, with a plum, which has the high yield. And so hopefully that will mean papayas with high yield fruit. That's the idea. Okay, so anyways, to the world. We're going to get this stuff in motion. Okay, so step 1 is to do the cross between a balsa sapling and a blue maho. We're hoping for a blue maho that has the quality of the high sapling rate drop rate of the balsa. Okay, so let's plant the blue mahos first, and then I'll plant the balsas. So I'm just going to basically plant them in our little farm here, and hopefully we'll get something fun, as in good. Yeah, as in very good. Okay, so I'm going to plant both of these. I'm going to set up the tree farm and be right back. Okay, guys, well, phase 1 of tree breeding is complete, at least I believe it is. I figured I'd take you along with every stage of this tree breeding process because it's the first time I've really done it, so maybe it's the first time you guys have seen it before too, so I figured why not? Let's go through it together. I know enough about it to kind of be able to play around, and that's basically what we're doing here. Just to recap, we are wanting a blue maho that has a high saplings trait while maintaining this high sappiness trait. I don't really care about these other traits so much. We can get a matures rate that's a little faster. That would be nice. The height of the tree doesn't matter in this case. That's only going to factor in how much wood, not the saplings that we get, because remember, the goal here is to get the most saplings. So, but the matures rate will definitely help the saplings production as well. If we look at our balsa that we're mixing it with, this has the high saplings trait. It also has a matures rate that's a little higher, so that's good. And a height that's larger, so it could get more wood, but you know, has nothing to do with saplings really. All right, so if we look at some of these hybrids we got, let's just look at one of these right here. This is a Blue Maho Balsa hybrid. So all of these are going to be hybrids. And basically we're looking for two hybrids that are two different trees. I don't know if you can breed, for example, two different Blue Maho Balsa hybrids and get a tree to breed with them. I don't know if that actually works. I think you might have to do a Blue Maho Balsa hybrid mixed with a Balsa Blue Maho hybrid and hope you get Blue Maho or Balsa. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, but I'm generally looking at what's connected with either the active or the inactive trait. These tend to travel together, I guess is the best word, into the offspring that you get from mixing, trees of this. So generally speaking, what I mean is most of these traits in this Blue Maho, if we're going to use this Blue Maho for breeding, if this was in another tree with this Blue Maho trait, it would generally keep most of these, except for maybe one or two would be mutated. Hope that makes sense. So what we want is something that's close to what we're looking for in the hybrid aspect of just the Blue Maho. So if we look at just the Blue Maho, this one sucks. It has lower saplings and lower sappiness, so it actually got worse. And there's one like over here. This one got worse as well. If we look at this one, it kind of got worse as well, although the matures rate is a little better, yada yada yada. In the end, I have these two. This one is a Balsa Blue Maho hybrid, where the Blue Maho aspect actually has a average matures rate, which is nice, a large height, which is okay too, and the high sappiness and high saplings trait, which is cool. And this Blue Maho sapling is basically exactly the same as a normal Blue Maho, just with the high sapling. So it's just what we want. So I'm going to breed these two together. The rest of these sort of can go away, can go in this hole in the ground, and I'm just going to get rid of them because I don't need them whatsoever, and I don't want to see them ever again. Now the nice thing about tree breeding that you don't have with bees is that with trees, every single sapling is a stable strain. So you don't have to worry about getting a stable strain. You can just grow it. There we go. Finally, jeez. And then grab the saplings from it, and you'll have as much saplings as you can grab. They'll be great. So there you go. These should all be the same sapling, and they should all stack with. Oh, weird. I think they stacked already with the... No, yeah. They should all stack together. Yep, okay. So again, this is our Blue Maho Balsa hybrid, where the Blue Maho is exactly the same as it was normally, except it has a high saplings rate. Cool. So that's perfect. And then we're going to do the same thing for this Balsa. We're going to do the same thing for this Balsa. There we go. Yeah. This one... Come on. Come on. Jeez. Whew. Okay, this doesn't have many leaves. We need a grafter, actually, to get some leaves off of this, or to get these saplings off of this. But you get the idea. So I'm going to grab these, and then I'm going to plant these Blue Mahos with the Balsa saplings I get here, and plant them instead, and we're going to go through round 2. All right? So see you. I'm going to get rid of all these trees. See you in a bit. Ah, trees, such strange creatures, especially this matchstick-looking one, that's the sequoia. But we're in the shade of the sequoia, and I'm thinking about the tree breeding that I was just going to do, but I actually think it's totally not necessary. And the reason why is because, well, I'll go into it a little bit. I was thinking of trees as if they were the same as bees. So let's talk first about bees. So I have a bee here. It's a tropical drone, but... voila, you see genetically it's actually a hybrid. It's a tropical endemic bee. And yes, I have endemic bees, and they are awesome because they have this explorer trait, which generates some XP. Really, really a cool bee. But that's beside the point. So if I were to want this tropical drone, this tropical bee with an explorer trait, I would have to make sure that I get a genetically pure bee. And the reason why we get genetically pure bees is because in order to make and continually make a never-ending stream of bees, you have to go generation by generation. So if you start with one bee, in order to make more bees, you have to mate them together. And in mating, they mix genetic information. So unless your princess and your drone have exactly the same genetic makeup, and that genetic makeup can't be a mixture like this, you're going to get a mixture of bees. So you're not going to get the same bee. So that's why we do things. That's why I do things like take this bee, for example, which is genetically pure, meaning every trait, okay, not every trait, but most of the traits on this side are the same as this side. I picked a bad bee. Hold on. Let's find one that actually is pure. I think this one's pure, for sure, the wintry one. So if we take this wintry one, yeah, okay, so everything over here is the same as over here. This is a genetically pure bee. I have to mate this with a princess with exactly the same information in order to get a never-ending stream of the same exact bee. For trees, though, you don't really need to do that, because trees don't, if I want more of this balsa sapling, I just plant it and then let it fall and create its own saplings. And every sapling from this tree that I plant will have saplings that are exactly the same genetic makeup. So that is pretty cool, which means that we can plant these two trees, these two blue mahos, and we're going to get the same blue mahos back from them. The difference is that, if you see they're a little different, they're displaying their active traits. So this particular tree, I'm going to plant it over here. Oh, but first, before I do, let's look at it. This particular tree has a high saplings trait and a high sappiness trait. So if I plant it over here, and I'll have to fertilize it later. But if I plant it over here, that's going to be our high saplings, high sappiness tree. If I plant this blue maho, it's a standard sort of blue maho with a lower saplings count. So I would expect, and this is just a little test here, when I plant this, and I plant this, and I grow it, the one near the sequoia should give us much less saplings, in terms of amount of saplings, and the one here should give us a lot more saplings. So I'm actually going to grow these things, and then cut them down, and then see how many saplings we get. We should get much more saplings of the one that had the high saplings trait, and we should get much less saplings from the tree that had the lower saplings trait. So let's go ahead and see that. We started with one of each. I'm going to go ahead and grow them and then cut them down and then count the saplings. So let's go, I'll be right back. So I grew both trees, and now it's time to cut both of them down. They have about the same number of leaves, so if the saplings trait for both of these is the same, we would expect around the same number of saplings. So I'm going to cut these two down. All right, and we're going to see how many saplings they generate. All right, see you in a few minutes. I'm just going to let them naturally decay. Okay, they've all decayed. Let's see what we got. So we have, for one, we have 30 saplings for one tree, and for the other tree we got 10. So pretty clearly there's a difference. In the one where we got 30 saplings, not too surprisingly, this is the one with the high saplings trait. And the one we got 10, it's the one with the lower saplings trait. Now I should notice that this high saplings trait also has a lower trait on the inactive, and that's why it's very clear this is a blue maho, and the blue maho has all of these traits. It has none of these that are displayed. These only come into play when you're doing crossbreeding. So we should be able to use these saplings in our tree farm to get saplings. However, there's one part of this puzzle that is missing. Do these trees, my question would be, do these trees cross-pollinate with each other? Because if they do, then we have an issue. So that's what I kind of have hoped to answer with this little tree grove setup I have here. I've actually just planted these particular hybrid saplings and grew them into trees, and I am seeing now if any of them are actually crossbreeding with one another. Thus far, no, but it's hasn't been that long. I want to make sure I test this because I don't believe they will. I think you actually need two specific different species. It was the reason why I chose the two hybrids as I did initially when I wanted to crossbreed them, but I don't believe these guys will crossbreed with one another. So I believe that I'm correct in that, but I have to be proven. I have to try to prove it, right? So I have to do the test. So I'm doing just that right now, and since it is dark out, I should probably get inside. So anyway, I'll be right back. Let's kind of do some other things while we're at it here, and we'll return to this a little bit later. Well, I guess now is a good time as any to return. I was gonna be doing a little bit of putting together the farms that I was going to start in there, but I think we'll actually concentrate on them in maybe next episode. So, or at least a future episode. I'm not really sure if it... Yeah, probably next episode. But I wanted to go ahead and check to see if we actually got any crossbreeding of these same saplings, and does not look like it. So this has been loaded for quite a while. I've been hanging around here, and I really haven't gotten any pollination. Now, normally with trees, I would have gotten some cross-pollination by now. Even with the sort of farther trees, we haven't gotten pollination. Sometimes butterflies can kind of... If you have a lot of butterflies around, the butterflies can pollinate, and they hold the pollen of a previous tree. So sometimes we would have gotten cross-pollination with the previous trees here. But we didn't even get that. So it looks pretty good, like this is going to work just fine. So actually what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut down these trees. And then for the next stage, I want to get all of our trees bred and ready to go. So I want to take these papayas. As I mentioned, these are these have the the lowest yield, so they don't really generate a lot of fruit at all. What they do generate is it doesn't even list the fruit there. Oh no, it doesn't list the fruit there, which is kind of odd. But it does produce papayas, and you can harvest them with an orchard, so that's the good thing. I think initially you couldn't, and then that was patched in quite some time ago in forestry. So now it works just fine. I actually tested it in a creative world just to make sure, and we're pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these down, and then I'm going to actually do the cross between a papaya and a plum, with the goal, of course, to get this a papaya with it's going to be a hybrid, that's fine, but a papaya that has a high yield here instead. And the other attributes I don't really care about. I think anything is fine, because it doesn't matter. These trees just have to grow, and then I have to, have them harvested. I don't think height's going to matter here either, so I think it's fine. All right, so let me go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. It's a fruit party, so plum and papaya now are just hanging out together and around the bees, and so hopefully there'll be some cross-pollination that happens here. And we'll get some awesome saplings of papayas with high yield. So remember, we want to get this aspect on our papaya, and we apparently only need a hybrid for this. Definitely gonna be awesome. Okay, so I'll be back and let you know what kind of offspring we get from this. Okay, see you in a bit. Hey, look, papaya just kind of spawned. Actually, I think we can go grab it. Let's see. Is it? Yeah, there you go. Cool, it's papaya. Hooray! I don't think you can do anything with it. I don't think you can eat it. No, I think it's only good for juice. I don't know. Anyway, I'll be back. Oh, one more thing. I thought it might be interesting to note, we got like 2 stacks of saplings from cutting down those 5 trees. So that's pretty good. That's about what is that? Like about 120, what is this? 5 saplings? So yeah, divided by 5 trees, that's pretty good. That's about 25 saplings per tree on average, which kind of matches what we found over there, which was 30. So that's pretty close. That's pretty good. That's pretty awesome. Okay, I'll let these guys pollinate and be back. See you in a bit. Okay, guys, well, I have some bad news and some good news. The bad news is that we will never be able to get a papaya sapling with a high yield trait. That is too bad. That's what we wanted from this cross, and we're not going to get it. The good news is that we won't get it from this cross, but we'll get it from another cross. Yeah. So the secret here is, let me kind of just describe this a little bit. Hopefully, if you bear with me, you'll understand. If not, just note that I'm going to fix it. But anyway, it's not really bad news. It's just the way in which the tree breeding works. I'm really glad I actually found this, because it's a really good... it's actually very convenient that we chose these 2 particular traits to look at, because in the first cross, we were crossing 2 dominant genes together to get a dominant gene in the end. In this second cross, however, we're looking for a recessive gene to be prominent and actively displayed, not a dominant gene, and I'll kind of explain what I mean by that. Okay, so in the case of the blue maho, changing this from the saplings from the lower trait to, in the end, we got these, right? This is what we're using. The active trait has high for the saplings trait instead of lower. And what we did is we crossed it with a balsa that had a high saplings trait. Great. Now, when I said both are dominant, what I meant is both are red here, and red means dominant. The blue genes, however, they're shown in blue. This means recessive. And basically, if you've ever taken genetics, you kind of know already what I'm getting at. So, dominant basically means if you have each trait, each sapling has 2 genes for one trait. So saplings is the trait. The 2 genes are active one, which is high, and an inactive one, which is lower. For every other trait, there's also 2 genes. So in the case of the blue maho mix that we had, both saplings traits were, both genes for the saplings trait were dominant. So that means there is an equal chance that lower could have been active or high could have been inactive, or the other way around. So switched from, instead of lower being here, lower would be right here. So in the offspring of the cross, it could be possible where the lower was switched over here or the high was switched over here. Okay, makes sense. In the case of the plums, however, and the papayas, here's an offspring that we got from our little cross here. We're looking at the yield trait. The lowest gene came from a papaya, which has the lowest gene. The plums, however, hide the high gene. And so the offspring all have a mixture of lowest and high. The problem is that high is recessive, which means that it will never be the active trait unless it also is mixed with another recessive trait. So that means that since we're always going to be mixed with a lowest or a dominant, the lowest gene will always be active if it is mixed with a recessive gene. So high will never, ever, ever be active unless it is also mixed with another recessive gene. So that means that if you look at the initial cross that we wanted to do, plum, every offspring was given is given one gene for yield from the plum, which is going to be high. And it's also given one gene from the papaya for this yield, which is lowest. So all the offspring are lowest high, and all the offspring, therefore, based on what I've just told you, are going to be this. Lowest is active, high is inactive. So what we need to do is make it so that some of the offspring are getting a high from one, let's call it parent tree, and from the other parent tree, if you will, they get another high. So we have to make sure that we mix 2 lowest high trees together, and we'll eventually be able to get this high on both traits. Now we can actually increase our probabilities by not doing 2 hybrids. We should be able to mix 2 hybrids. We actually should mix the, not that one, not the original, but the papaya plum hybrid with the plum pure thing, because that means that plum will always give a high gene, and papayas will give, half the time it'll give a lowest gene, the other half of the time you'll get a high gene in the offspring saplings that we get from this. So that means there's a 50% chance that we have a high. That's really good. And then there is some chance that we'll have a papaya hybrid, which is good. So I think that's like a 25% chance, because it's 50% chance times 50% chance, I think, because there's going to be a 50% chance of getting a papaya from one of these genes. But then there's a 50% chance it's mixture, so it's actually probably around 12%. I think I'm correct in that probability. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to mix a papaya hybrid here that has a high on the yield, and the plum pure bread, let's call it. So we're going to mix these 2 together. Okay? I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm really sorry, but that's kind of the best I can do. But let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to chop down this whole thing and set up those trees. All right, so see you in a bit. Good news, everyone. We did it. We made a papaya with the high yield. So success, right? Success, total success. So I have here in front of me, I planted both trees. I planted the papaya we originally started out with, and the papaya we just made with the high yield. So one of these is the original papaya that you get, and one of them is the high yield one. Can you guess which one is which? Guess, guess, guess. Well, you might guess that this is the high-yield papaya because look, there's more papayas. This one has none. But you'd be totally and dead wrong. This is not the high-yield papaya. This is actually the lowest-yield papaya. This is a papaya with high yield. What is going on here? We don't have any fruit here. We have fruit only here. What's happening? Well, I kind of did things without thinking too much, and then I went back and thought, and, well, turns out, well, okay, here we go. So the tree on the left with papayas, this is the original papaya. This is basically what you get when you do the mix to get this papaya, which I think does it give you? No, it doesn't indicate what you got it from. But it's from, I think it's a hill cherry, and I'm not really sure. I forget. But anyways, when you get a papaya, you get this. It has lowest yield and average height. Then the one we made, it's smallest. It has a smaller height, but it has high yield. This is actually, it's not exactly the one we made, but this is another one that's pretty similar. So it has a high yield. Yeah, so I thought, hey, guess what? Maybe it's because it's smallest. The papaya is short, so therefore there's not enough trunk to make these papayas. So what I ended up doing was creating a papaya that had the same characteristics. So I just basically took the same characteristics as the one we made, so it basically has a small height. And what I did was I made it large. And how I did this was crossing it with a kapok. I'll show you all these crosses later. So I crossed it with a kapok, and essentially blah blah blah. Actually, it was more than one cross, but eventually I got this. High yield, large height, and that tree is seen over here. So we got a really tall papaya with no fruit. What is going on here? Well, there's a third characteristic that I totally forgot about and didn't realize. It's the second page. This, as you see, when it says fruits, it says plum is the dominant trait, and papaya is actually recessive. So all that stuff about dominance and recessive comes into play here. Anytime you have a plum papaya as one of your offspring, you can never have papaya plum. So papaya can never be active. This is always going to be the inactive one unless it's coupled with another recessive gene for that trait. So just like we learned from before, we actually have to make sure that this is papaya papaya. And I believe this is crossed out because not every tree type can support every type of fruit. So this is plum, but even though it's a papaya sapling, which they can't make plums. So I hope that makes sense. So in the end, we did get what we wanted though. So in the end, I had to do a bunch of crosses to end up getting these. So over here, I have all 4 planted, and the 4th one is what we actually wanted. So it's actually a large height tree. It has high yield, and it has papaya. So this is maximizing the amount of papaya production. And it does look like the trunk's height can make a difference, because if you look, this trunk is much higher, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 papayas. I think that's it. Oh, 7 papaya pods on it. All right, so it has 7 papaya pods. Here's the original papaya, which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh. Okay, well, maybe it's about the same. I don't know. I can't really tell. But this one is maturing much faster than this guy. The fruit is maturing much faster. So that's success. So we had this original papaya. We made a small one that didn't make fruit. We made a large one that doesn't make fruit. And then we made a large one that does make fruit. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you in detail the crosses, and then we'll close out this episode. But we finally did succeed, except it kind of took us a little while to get there. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and go to sleep here. And just so you know, this is really awesome. We have our ender bees that basically give me XP like it's nobody's business. Check it out. Come on, ender bees. Not ender bees. Endemic bees. I'm sorry. Endemic bees. Okay, so I'll be right back. Well guys, as promised, I'll show you the complicated crosses that I ended up using to get here. And where I mean by here, I mean in order to get to this final papaya plum hybrid, that's what that thing over there is. It's it has displays the active or expresses the active trait of the active genes, which are large height, high yield. The rest don't really matter in this case, and makes papayas, which is really important. Really, really, really important, as it turns out. So in order to get there, I basically did a lot of this. These are just extra saplings, ignore them, but any sapling you see here, essentially I crossed, in order to get this, I crossed these two together. I'm not going to display the genetic information for all of these because it's just a lot. So I crossed these two papaya and plum together. I crossed these two papaya plums together, these two papaya plums, yeah, capox, etc. But basically, the key thing to know, if you're kind of doing any trait breeding yourself, is that you really need to concentrate on these recessive traits. Anything recessive that you want to bring along is much more difficult and much less likely to occur just based on the probabilities that work out than the dominant traits. Because dominant traits, they can shuffle any way they want, and if it's mixed with a recessive, it always shows. But recessive traits are a little more tricky. So as you saw, it was really easy for us to get the dominant trait to express in terms of the saplings, a number of saplings dropped. But the this was a little more trying. Now, as it turns out, I don't think I needed the large height, but I did it anyways, and I don't know, it looks kind of cool. So it's unusual. Let's put it that way. So I like it. All right, so I'm gonna put these away, and I think I'm gonna call it an episode here because it's been kind of a long episode, I guess. But thanks a lot, guys, for watching. We now have a way of generating papayas. We have what we need in terms of saplings. Probably in the next episode, I will. Oh, look, this guy. Bee house, yeah. Probably in the next episode, I will be setting up some of the farms and whatnot that we're going to need for our biofuel production. I think I'm going to extend the farms in my main base, and then eventually I'll move on to the pyramid here. Because we finished actually excavating the main excavation portion. I'm just going to have to do a few more, like, you know, make it a little larger probably, like I said. Okay, guys, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode. Take care, guys, and bye-bye.